spending time in his work area, we'd begun to win him over a little at a time, even if it was exceedingly slow. The thing was, initially, we thought he was just really shy. We came to realize that might not be the case. Yes, he tried keeping to himself, but he had a really funny, snarky personality buried under his supposed indifference. Aiming that snark in Toby's direction was nothing more to him than an invitation. My hyper friend tapped his bottom lip and eyed Levi up and down. Maybe we don't have just one more daddy to find. Dylan stiffened, then leaned down and whispered in my ear. I hope Samuel has life insurance on Toby. Christian's gonna kill him if he pulls Levi into this bizarre matchmaking scheme of his. I nodded my head in agreement. Christian owned the tap, but he didn't date employees. He never had, and until Levi, I didn't think he ever would. But there was something about the reserved bartender that drew Christian in like a moth to the flame. He always had one eye on the smaller, beautiful man. Initially, I'd thought that Christian wanted to make sure no one bullied Levi about the pronounced scar running down his cheek, although I couldn't understand why anyone ever would. Not just because that would be a douche thing to do, but because it didn't detract from his flawless skin and deep eyes in any way, shape, or form. The guy was gorgeous. More and more, though, it seemed like maybe he just liked being in Levi's orbit. I wasn't sure if Christian heard Toby, or if he just so happened to appear from the direction of his office at that precise moment. Don't you guys have work to finish up? I'd like to go home sometime tonight. Toby checked the time on his phone. Yep, I gotta go. Daddy Samuel's in bed already and I want to snuggle him. Levi wandered away without another word, and Dylan gave me one more squeeze before letting me go. Yeah, Brett's probably asleep already too, but I'd still like to slide in next to him where it's nice and warm. Christian rolled his eyes and disappeared, but I knew it was all a front. Dylan and Toby rarely picked up shifts here anymore, and Christian missed them being around as much as I did. Dylan was hard at work and would be done with his nursing program before we knew it, and Toby's catering business had taken off, leaving me and Cameron. Cameron, who now eyed me warily, and I knew in my gut what was bothering him. They'd finally hung my wanted, tender daddy sign up a few weeks ago, but so far nothing. Or at least they hadn't told me anything. I knew men had inquired about it, some of them pretty easy on the eyes, confident, and apparently successful. But I'd had to direct them to Cameron. He was doing the initial interview and deciding if they got to know it was me searching for the tender daddy. So far, I guessed they'd all struck out. As much as Toby talked about his experiment, it had been on hold until recently. We'd all decided after Dylan and Brett found each other that I wasn't quite ready for Toby to post my wanted sign. It had been a long year of counseling and major heart-to-hearts with my friends for me to work up the courage to let him hang it. At one point along the way, I thought they'd forgotten about it, but after one of my therapy sessions, they'd taken me out to lunch and told me they thought it was time if I was ready. I thought we were all on the same page, but so far, nothing. Sighing, I acknowledged to myself that anyone who approached Cameron about my sign would probably strike out. It had been a long time since the first wanted sign went up, but I was still the baby of our little chosen family, unless we managed to reel Levi in. And with my past abuse and how nervous I was about whether I'd even be able to handle the sexy times part of a relationship, I didn't think any of my friends would match me up with a man. I was doomed to be alone forever. Letting him off the hook and wanting to distract myself from the fact that Toby and Dylan were going home to their men, I asked, You want to hit the diner when we're done? I could go for an ice cream sundae. His answering smile held a touch of relief, and I knew I was right. I would be the one failure in Toby's little experiment. Sometimes the best way, the only way for me to keep my chin up and move forward, meant getting my tiny ass out of bed and going to help my father at the food pantry he ran. If I didn't do that, I'd end up laying in bed until my shift at work tonight, thinking about how perfect all my friends' daddies were for them, and how I'd never find my own because I was so damn broken. I knew it, they knew it, anyone privy to the details of my life knew it. And didn't that just suck? Hey, Archie, what are you doing here today? Janice, one of the volunteers, asked as I came in through the back entrance to the pantry. My pop's head whipped around.